So because this is clearly quite a large panel, I'm not going to talk too much, which is good for everyone here. So this is our session on innovations in upcycling and product valorization. We have a really great spread of folks who work in this industry and all have their unique ways of contributing to valorization and upcycling in their specific industries. So first we have Quinn with Rfine.
Thanks a lot, Laura. So I'm Quinn Cavanagh. I'm a co-founder of Rfine Biomass Solutions, and we work with spent coffee grounds. So hence the upcycling products and valorization. We're very much dedicated to the feedstock that we see as a problematic and abundant one, spent coffee grounds. So in short, Rfine is a clean technology company, and we develop cost-saving solutions for quick-service coffee vendors, so the likes of Tim Hortons, McDonald's, Starbucks, those who produce vast quantities of this byproduct and also pay to get rid of it. And what this equipment allows them to do is repurpose their spent coffee grounds into valuable resources, mainly for sustainable food and feed production. So there's lots of coffee drank around the world every single day. I see a couple dozen going on right now, which produces a lot of waste, about 60,000 tons around the world every single day, enough to fill a Supermax tanker vessel. So this is huge, huge quantities of a waste material that we really barely use, right? This is a globally traded food crop commodity. We spend all kinds of water, energy, time, fuel to grow it, ship it all over the world, really just to pass water over it and use the caffeine and nothing else that we put that huge input into. In Canada alone, we're a little bit smaller, but we're big coffee drinkers. We're still creating about 80 tractor trailers worth of coffee every single day, most often destined for landfill. But there's a challenge within this, so it's great. There's a bunch of nutritional content left over. There's protein, there's antioxidants, there's fiber. But it's a challenging material, mainly because it's very highly dispersed. So although there's lots of it, there'll be 20 kilograms produced here today, but there'll also be 10 kilograms down the road, and even further down the road, there'll be 5 kilograms and 20 beyond. So going about collecting that economically and sustainably is quite a challenge, and it often, makes the economics of your business case fall apart, and it's hard to justify a low-value output from a really expensive input. So that's really what Rfine focuses on, is the more logistics side of how do we collect this abundant byproduct economically and sustainably. So this is just a quick look at kind of what our solution is, and I wanted to emphasize, the necessity for creativity in these byproduct recovery schemes, because it's not always that simple. And I think, we saw the collaboration between SmallFood, Oberlin, Sustainable Blue, and Sustain, and I think that's a great example of the level of creativity. These things aren't easy, and that's okay, but you've got to really rethink how you're approaching it. You're not going to do this sustainably with a fleet of 20 diesel trucks picking up coffee and then making more biodiesel. So instead what we do is build this technology that goes in-store in a coffee vendor, which basically removes the water from the material and packages it in a food-grade container, which allows us to safely access food and feed applications. So this is another kind of look at our scheme. So we'd have an in-store installation somewhere at a McDonald's, for example. And because we've converted this material to a food-grade state immediately at the store level, we can access this unique backhaul distribution scheme. So every McDonald's and Tim Hortons in the region receives 2 deliveries a week from their own fleet of distribution vehicles, leaving mostly or all empty. You can't put waste on those trucks, but you can put foods. So that's that little nuance to this business model that allows us to access these trucks on their way home, and we can collect hundreds of stores worth of spent coffee from a single distribution center opposed to hundreds of stores. We can then run a series of quality assurance routines, bulk contain it, and sell it basically to our partners in sustainable food production. So I wanted to, again, just emphasize the kind of necessity for collaboration as well. So one of the users who's in the room here, we deliver coffee to Oberlin AgriScience. Their insects seem to have an affinity for coffee. They're really important for us, and their existence makes it a lot easier for us to exist as well. And then the more kind of CFIN-related side as well are someone like Crosby Foods in New Brunswick. So they're taking our raw material and converting it into things like cocoa powder alternatives. They're a big user of cocoa. They have customers who are big users of cocoa. It's very expensive. It's not sustainable. It's not ethical. So a low-cost, sustainable alternative to a popular commodity like cocoa is a great interest. And there's a few other theirs, but I know we're short on time, so I'm not going to keep it too long-winded. Thank you so much, CFIN, Tyson especially, and all the other collaborators and agency in the room who've allowed us to get this far. I'm really happy to be here. Thanks so much.
Hi, everyone. My name is David Singer. I am co-founder and VP Business Development at Index Bio. First off, I want to thank CFIN for the opportunity to present here today and for their continuing support, and thanks to the amazing team there. Today, I'm going to introduce how we can transform food safety and how it's managed, and how sustainability is authenticated by physically connecting foods and ingredients, including seafoods, to digital supply chain data using a simple teaspoon of baker's yeast. Traceability is risk mitigation. If you can't trace a product or prove ownership, you can't reduce the scope of recalls or absolve products from claims of liability. You can't prove that a shipment of seafood contains product from sustainably certified sources, or that it wasn't commingled with illegally caught or non-certified product. Great companies that are making substantial efforts and financial commitments to be certified under leading sustainability standards are now finding themselves subject to greenwashing lawsuits due to the vulnerabilities proving chain of custody and proof of claims. Global regulatory trends and consumer demands are already having significant impacts on seafood producers. But these challenges also represent an exciting opportunity for Canadian leaders in food safety and sustainable production to differentiate themselves globally by raising the bar. Introducing biotags. Biotags are an edible DNA barcode made from a simple baker's yeast that are easily applied to foods and ingredients, wet or dry, in trace amounts to provide complete supply chain traceability and proof of ownership despite product commingling and even processing. We're authorized for use in food by Health Canada and the US FDA, and there is no gene modification. And given that, there is an unlimited number of unique biotag identifiers available. And while our biotags have been proven in commercial trials spanning from everything from animal feeds to grains all the way through to flour and bread, pharmaceuticals and more, we're going to focus the conversation today on sustainable seafood proof of claims. So as an example, we have applied our biotags to shrimp by simply mixing in our biotag with ice water at the time of harvest. This shrimp was then frozen, thawed after 3 months, deshelled and deveined and blended into a shrimp burger, with biotags detectable and quantifiable at each step. Meaning, not only can we identify in a commingled shipment a certified shrimp from an uncertified shrimp, we can tell you the percent of certified shrimp in that shrimp burger. So each of our unique biotag sequences is captured in a digital registry, which we call Trailhead. It's easily integrated with via API. Biotags in combination with Trailhead connects physical ingredients directly to digital supply chain data. Trailhead is designed to use GS1 standards and features robust tools for the US FDA's food safety modernization traceability requirements, such as the creation of key data elements and critical tracking events. Our biotags are detected using standard DNA detection methods in field and in lab, and we are already working with global testing, inspection, and certification companies like SGS, Bureau Veritas, Eurofins, and Control Union, among others. Leveraging the enhanced traceability and definitive proof of ownership made possible by our biotags, we're helping companies address a wide range of traceability and authentication challenges through a tiered service offering. At our entry level, we have a service called Index Insights, where we offer an investigational application of our biotags that we can apply to small production batches. And companies are using this from everything from supply chain validation, they're using it for demonstrating FSMA compliance, chain of custody, origin, and provenance identification, and product authentication claims. But interesting, and this was also, this is evolving and born out of another CFIN project that we're currently doing with flour milling. What we've demonstrated is that our biotags work as an amazing proxy for pathogen movement through manufacturing facilities. And we're currently working with companies now developing programs to validate process controls and validate sanitation methods in ready-to-eat food manufacturing facilities. At the next level, we have Index Lifecycle, which involves routine use of biotags across production life cycles. And in addition to the value propositions I was discussing previously, it's being used, among other things, to reduce scope of product recalls and absolve companies from third-party liability claims. And then number 3, we have Index Financial Services, where we're working with leading alternative risk partner, currently underwriting biotag-backed insurance products. And for seafood, we have partnered with a globally leading insurance broker, and we're developing sustainable seafood warranties. We're currently working on projects with South American seafood producers who are importing into Canada and the US. And we're actively seeking partnerships with Canadian seafood producers and commercial pilots across a range of seafood categories. The focus has been primarily on conversation, obviously, with sustainability, but as I mentioned, we're rapidly advancing food safety use cases, validating process controls, and without the need for operational shutdown. So this is like a frictionless application. With our biotags, we can create precise facility mapping of potential movement of contaminants, including allergens and pathogens, as an early warning system. So applications of our biotag are near frictionless. Companies are seeing a whole range of ROI benefits with just simple small batch applications, investigational applications. If you're interested in stress testing your supply chain or providing your customers with the ability to authenticate the sustainable sourcing of their supply, we'd love to speak to you. Thank you so much.
My name is Marc St-Onge. I'm the founder of SmallFood, a biomass fermentation company. So it's hard to believe that the world is actually running out of food. And we may not really see that kind of in our day-to-day lives, but in certain industries, in certain sectors, it's starting to create a major impact today. A lot of people say we've reached peak fish and peak fish oil. And in a way, that's actually true. And in 2023, the total supply actually went down due to the closure of the world's largest fishery, which is the Peruvian anchoveta fishery. This actually poses a massive issue for the aquaculture industry. There's this belief that species like salmon and trout cannot grow without an adequate supply of fish meal and fish oil. And so this has been identified as an urgent, major issue, for the entire industry. So at SmallFood, we've kind of set out on a quest to kind of prove that wrong, that you can actually grow species like salmon and trout without using fish meal and fish oil. In fact, we discovered a very unique microalgae. So once again, another marine resource that we have a unique single-cell organism that we learned to domesticate, we learned to scale and optimize. And it was selected for very particular traits, which is having a protein composition and quality that is comparable to animal-based proteins, which includes fish. It also is an excellent supply, actually a better supply of the long-chain omega-3s that we all hear about these days. That the reason why we do eat salmon is we want those nutritious omega-3 fats into our bodies. Well, the salmon, of course, they get that through they don't make it de novo. They actually have to get it through the food that they eat. And so this particular microalgae has really, really high levels of these long-chain omega-3s. At the end of the day, though, when we talk about producing food for the world, especially producing the food that we will eventually eat, everything has to be cost effective, it has to be scalable. Otherwise, it's just a fun little science project. So once we were able to establish how do we grow this organism in very efficient ways, we had to kind of validate, can you actually feed this to a salmon? Is it digestible? What happens to the fish when you actually grow this? And of course, you've heard about some exciting work that's happening with companies here at this event. Here from Sustainable Blue and Overland. We're collaborating to really achieve a pretty monumental goal is how do you produce a fish that's not grown in the ocean and does not contain any feed ingredient that was derived from the ocean. So in the trials that we've done, performed at SmallFood, or using SmallFood, we've actually learned that when you add the microalgae biomass to a salmon feed ingredient, the salmon actually perform better. They actually gain more weight. They're actually eating more food. We actually did some controlled studies where we actually, we were serving the fish either their traditional anchovy meal or a meal that was made with the SmallFood biomass, and they actually preferred to, they didn't avoid the anchovy meal, but more often than not, they wanted to consume the microalgae that we were producing. We see a lot of other benefits in the fish that you don't see with traditional fish meal and fish oil, is that the guts of these species are actually improved in terms of their overall microbiome composition. So something that is in our biomass that you do not find in fish is fiber. And in fact, this is a particular soluble fiber that has prebiotic properties. So it's encouraging the growth and diversity of the beneficial microbes. And most of all, when you're going to remove something like fish meal from a diet of fish, as consumers, we still want to see like those healthy omega-3, the DHA, in the products that we buy at the market. So I mentioned that our strain was produced, was discovered and based on certain traits, and part of that is its metabolism. It has to grow very cost effectively. In fact, compared to other microalgae that is produced there in the market today, which one of the constraints has always been, well, it's too expensive to add to a feed diet for salmon. Well, this particular microalgae grows about 10 times faster. In fact, every 24 hours, we're actually harvesting the biomass. So this is really the epitome of energy efficiency within our food production. And we did a screening level LCA, which needs to be updated because we've actually tripled the efficiency of our platform since we performed this. But as you can see, compared to extracting fish from the ocean to put into feeds, we're far more sustainable in terms of the carbon emissions, the requirements for water, and of course for land. In fact, in many cases, we're better than pea and soy, which are considered to be pretty gold standard land-based crops. But when it comes to this concept of upcycling, one of the hotspots in our whole set of metrics is we have to use glucose to feed our microalgae. They don't require a whole lot else than that, but the glucose is a big factor. It's also a major cost in our overall production. So corn, extremely valuable crop that's grown here in North America, primarily is used to produce sugar, starch, oils. So it's a major and important ingredient for our food system. Well, it's also used in different types of fermentation processes, including the production of bioethanol. So one of the things that we find is there's a massive amount of spent corn grain that is sitting or being produced by all these various producers. Some of it does go to cattle feed, but a lot of it ends up in a landfill. And this is the whole concept of there's no such thing as a waste product. Sitting within that spent corn grain is a valuable protein, and as well the cellulose. Cellulose is, for those who don't know, is just chains of glucose that are put together that naturally cannot be digested by mammals, but there is a process that you can use to cost effectively chop that up back into its individual constituents, which are the glucose molecules. So we've been working over the last year to really perfect this process with a supplier in the U.S. We're not actually the ones doing the conversions, but we're their partner that is actually learning how to be able to use this upcycled glucose back into our fermentation process. And we've looked at some calculations, and it really reduces the carbon intensity of what we do in half. Like I said, sugar, it was a major component in our overall LCA analysis. But then there's also a protein recovery that can be used for something like aquafeed. But the downside to using corn protein is the fish don't like it. So when you take this upcycled glucose to produce our microalgae biomass, you combine it with the corn protein. We put that to the test, and actually fish continue to prefer to consume this combination of corn protein with the microalgae biomass over their traditional diet. So now we've done a validation where we've actually grown, not salmon, but we actually grew trout with zero fish meal and zero fish oil, something a lot of producers just say could not be done. These salmon actually outperformed, these trout outperformed the control diet, which was predominantly fish meal and fish oil. So this is the first kind of demonstration of decoupling the whole aquafeed industry from this ocean resource that's been overexploited, for many, many decades, and will allow the industry to continue to grow and expand and continue to feed our growing population. I'll just mention really quickly too, I've probably gone over, but beyond the feed markets, we're really excited to be able to use this microalgae biomass to create the next generation of healthy, sustainable seafood that we can serve directly to humans. We're part of the X Prize Feed the Next Billion competition, and these are just a few examples. Actually, I whipped up in the kitchen, so hopefully another CFIN event in the future, we can talk more about alternative seafood products. Thanks.
Thanks, Laura, and thanks, CFIN, for having us here. It's an exciting opportunity. We've had some great conversations already, and looking forward to further networking, talking with some companies here. My name is Chris MacLean, and I'm here on behalf of Altheda Wellness. Global population is aging rapidly. Population of 60 plus is growing at 5 times the rate of the population as a whole. In addition, life expectancy is continually increasing. Unfortunately, healthy aging and the is not reflected in those added years. Who we are, Altheda, we're a natural product company. We are developing nutraceuticals, nootropics, dietary supplements, and topical products, all centered around healthy aging. Our founding team, while we're a new venture, we have actually worked together for approximately 5 years for most of us, and some of us 10 years. A very strong scientific background. Our Chief Scientific Officer, Melanie Kelly, she's a professor of pharmacology and ophthalmology at Dalhousie University. She was former chief scientific officer of a publicly traded pharma company, brings a lot of pharma and OTC experience to the team. Dr. Peter Ford is a compounding pharmacist. He's an owner of Ford's Family Pharmacy in Moncton, New Brunswick, and has experience in a number of different small businesses as well. And Matthew Allen is our Chief Technical Officer. He's a community pharmacist, and a previous company that we worked together, he was a formulations manager and has a lot of experience with end user, but also in the formulation. And then myself on the business side, I am the Chief Executive Officer. My background is business development, corporate operations, and financing. So on our R&D side, one of our main focuses is around brain health, specifically nootropics, so brain supplements, and really enhancing cognitive function and supporting overall brain health. Currently, we're in the regulatory stage for one of our products. It's a marine-based product, and we are dealing with a supplier out of Japan. It's a clinically backed product, shows a lot of efficacy towards brain health and cognitive function in Alzheimer's patients. What we're doing here now is we want to bring this to a local product. So we have the current supplier. There's a huge marine ecosystem around here that we can tap into. We're working with a local seafood supplier and a number of researchers in Nova Scotia to take this product that we have, but evaluate it with other waste streams. So the local seafood supplier has a marine-based product. They're pulling out the piece they use. They have this waste. They don't know what to do with it. That's where we come in. We are researching this, comparing it with what we have, finding the right compositions so we can make this into a local product for this brain health. Second product we're working on is a macroalgae product. It's a prebiotic that we are working with a Canadian supplier. They are a marine-based ingredient supplier out of Quebec. They have a number of different products. We're working on a co-development with them right now to take a product they have, an ingredient they have, they're extracting it. After they extract it, there's the post-extraction waste. We are looking to take that and co-development with them to make that into a prebiotic product. This company is very eco-focused. They're sustainable harvesting practices and everything. They do a lot of harvesting around the Atlantic provinces. So sustainability, I mean, this is a huge part of our company. It's built into our core values from the beginning. What this means is waste stream reduction. So some of what we've been talking about already. So taking waste from something someone else is doing, they don't know what to do with it. They have to pay to get rid of it. It's not environmentally friendly. We take that, evaluate it, and turn it into a product. In addition to the two I've talked about, we have a post-extraction hemp-based product that's a prebiotic as well. We've patented delivery around that. In addition, we're working with sustainable partners. So the two we talked about, but all of our ingredient suppliers, we make sure they have strong ESG plans in place. And a lot of the ones we're dealing with they either do their own cultivating or they have strong relationships and a history with the cultivators and the growers. So traceability, sustainability, it's a huge part of our partners. And the final way is through packaging. So finding ways to eliminate single-use plastics, coming down to what our dietary supplements are packaged in. Instead of these plastic bottles, use glass or pouches, and just ways to kind of save on these single-use plastics. Sustainable and socially responsible products contribute to a healthier planet, but they also promote healthier aging and healthier lifestyles. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Chris. Next up, we have Michael Milway from Mayor Renewables.
I'll thank Marc for introducing some of the topics I'll be discussing. At Mara Renewables, we make algal omega-3 oil from environmental isolates. We've been in business, these are the company stats, we've been in business for 12 years and we've been commercial since 2016. We really focus on natural algal isolates, very similar to what SmallFood uses. Where SmallFood, you guys focus more on like finding a protein source. Our focus has really been an oil-producing algae that can replace fish oil. We have novel extraction technologies, patented non-solvent wet extraction technology. We have over 20 patent families. We do upstream and downstream processing, optimizations, and we've recently expanded the group to include regulatory and quality and all the other sales and legal expertise that's required for a company of our size. We're interested in 4 major markets. We sell into the infant formula space, dietary supplements. We do some fish oil blending as well as animal feed. There's a picture there of a chicken that's been enriched with omega-3 through its feed. We put our oil into the chicken feed, and the Saudi Arabian government, such that it is, has figured out that its population is very deficient in omega-3. They don't eat a lot of fish. So they're looking for some creative ways to get omega-3 into their diet. And this is a package from a grocery store in Saudi Arabia that's selling chicken enriched with our omega-3 oil. Our algae is a prolific oil producer, as I said earlier. They're isolated from intertidal regions around the world. Our particular strain, that's our big strain, is from just pretty far down the street, but Bay of Fundy, Advocate Harbor, I believe is where we isolated it from. It can store up to 80% of its mass as triglyceride oil, and up to 70% of that can be PUFA or polyunsaturated fatty acids, and the majority of that is the form of DHA. In Mara, we do a lot of lab-based optimizations to improve productivity of our strains. This is media, like all through fermentation technology, I guess I should say. We do non-GM strain improvements. We try to improve our extraction efficiency and improve our overall oil quality. Our basic process, we feed glucose, dextrose into a fermenter, and our algae eat that. It's the main ingredient, and they store the majority. They store, like I said, 70 to 80% of their mass is oil. We then extract the oil from the cells. We have a crude oil product there, and then we refine, bleach, deodorize the oil, and sell it onto the market. I've highlighted the waste stream as well as the plant energy, and I could talk about the main process for hours if you want, but I'll talk mainly about the three areas that are require more upcycling and valorization, our waste streams and our energy consumption. First, our carbon source. We use food-grade glucose. Marc mentioned some of the challenges with that. We get it from corn, wheat, sugar cane. We'd love to co-locate with our sugar, so we're not trucking it in from all over the place. But we'd also like to look at some waste products or less valuable carbon sources, cheaper, I guess is a better way of saying it. We've dealt with sugar beets, as they're not as prominent in the food system, glycerol, which is a byproduct of the biodiesel industry, and then hemicellulosic sugar, which is glucose and xylose, which is kind of the holy grail out there of an abundant carbon source that's not easily isolated and not easily consumed by a lot of microbes. We invested in a plant in Liverpool, United Kingdom, around 2016. It's in it of itself is an upcycling project. It's a 1970s plant that we needed to get to market quickly. When we started, we were only using about 10% of the capacity, and we've since, actually 5% of the capacity, and we've since reached full capacity of that plant. And Mats was mentioning all the pipes that just go to the drain and all the energy inefficiencies that are involved, that I felt very seen in that presentation. There's a lot of pipes just going to drains that we had to figure out how to stop that from happening. We found a lot of efficiencies through our process, such as temperature, trying to keep the bugs, our fermentation at a slightly higher temperature reduces our energy costs. We converted the plant from diesel to natural gas, and then increasing in spec rate. So our fermentation process is a biological process. It's not manufacturing like you would imagine. Every time is a bit of an adventure, but by increasing our in-spec rate, we're decreasing our losses, and we're at a very high in-spec rate right now, knock on wood. And then now that we're reaching capacity, we're starting to look for new places to grow our bug, expand our capacity. And some of the things you can imagine for our carbon source, there's not much worse place in the world than Liverpool, England, to find abundant sugar. So we'd be looking to co-locate next to a cornfield in Iowa or Brazil. These are the hot spots for fermentation. And then new continuous processes where we can get just more efficiency and more productivity out of our process with minimal capex. And then our waste stream, which is currently a waste stream, we have put a lot of time and energy into converting that into a co-product. It's about 10% solids, it's decent carbohydrates and protein, and as well as some omega-3 oil that we lose during our process. But unfortunately, it's very high in water. It's about 90% liquid, and so drying and even transporting the stuff is fairly costly. We could potentially use it as a livestock feed, insect feed. We've used it, I think, trialed it with some black soldier flies. There's plenty of usable stuff in there that we can recycle back into the fermentation or other food applications. But all of this downstream waste stream is sensitive to our process changes. So our oil is our product, and we have to focus on making that as best as we can. And sometimes that comes at the cost of our waste stream being a little less palatable. So we kind of have to eat that, not literally. So the main, for our fermentation plant, the three main areas are our carbon source, our waste stream, and just energy efficiencies, and making that plant hum at a slightly higher level than it currently is. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Fun fact, Michael and I were some of the first fermentation scientists that worked at Renewables back in 2013. So it's sort of nice to see after all these years how far they've come in the commercialization. It was a walk down memory lane. So we've done very well for time. We're on our last speaker. So Sabrina, are you going to sit or are you going to podium?
I'm going to sit.
Wonderful.
I can hardly see over the podium. So hi, I'm Sabrina McKenzie. I'm the CEO and co-founder and head scientist of St-Onge Biochemistry. I'm just going to say thank you, because I look around this room and at almost every table I see somebody who's helped us along the way. We're a startup. We're in just starting year 4 now, and it's been a bit of a journey, and there's a lot of people in this room who've helped us to get where we are today. So thanks. I'll try to be quick. I know I'm in the coveted right before lunch spot. I don't want a hungry crowd to turn on me. So what we do at St-Onge is we take seaweed, local seaweed, and I've invented a process to extract multiple compounds from seaweed in one single process. The goal of the company was always to do this in a sustainable way. The process was designed like that from the beginning, so there would be no waste. And this very much lines up with the USN's sustainable goals, in particular, life underwater, which makes sense for us. But one thing that is a key component, we're not a government agency and we're not a charity. Profit has to always be a big part of this, because if we can't make our company make money, we're not going to be able to do anything for the environment. So that has always been our goals all along, that the sustainability and the profit have to go hand in hand. So the first thing to focus on is the biomass that we use, which is seaweed. Seaweed's one of the most renewable biomasses that exists. It grows fast, it doesn't take up any arable land, and we use right now wild harvest, so it's sustainably harvested in Nova Scotia. So right away, we're out of the gate, we're ahead of the game, because we're using something very sustainable to start with, which also benefits the ocean itself. By reducing ocean acidification, it also protects our coastline, which we've seen from weather events recently is becoming ever more important. But the other thing is the process. How do we get the chemicals out of the seaweed? Don't worry, I'm not going to give you a giant chemistry lesson here. But our process was designed from the beginning with the principles of green chemistry. And it might surprise a lot of people to know that the #1 principle of green chemistry is prevention of waste. So, and then the next 11 are basically ways to do that. So I think that is actually a really key difference between St-Onge and a lot of other companies. As we've seen here today, the world is changing. People used to use biomass very inefficiently. They should take what they want and throw the rest back. Now people are making a really strong effort, which we've seen from a lot of great companies here today, to use their waste. But even a step further we've gone is to design the process from the beginning to not have waste. So that's a really important profit center, but it's also a really important sustainability principle. So these are some of the ways we do that: waste reduction, energy conservation. The E factor is basically a measure of the mass of the biomass you start with and the mass of the products that you produce. And obviously, in an ideal world, you'd want that to balance out to 100%. So it's always better to prevent waste, or to just think of your product, even if every product you produce isn't a super high value product, it has value somewhere. So how we've done this is by the sequence process. This is the innovation that allows us to be sustainable and profitable. By producing multiple high value compounds, we're able to do this in a really economical way. The other key feature of the sequence process is that it's really gentle. And that matters a lot, because that means the molecules that we're taking out are bio-intact when we get them, which translates to really high bioactivity, which we've proven in human clinical trials. And that's actually a really key piece of this, because that's what drives the profitability. So spoiler alert for the end. So I heard someone ask the question to another company is, can you charge a premium price for sustainable high-value products? The answer is yes. I'm going to tell you that good news piece at the end, but the answer is definitely yes to that. So traditional manufacturing of chemicals from any biomass has been to just take what you need, throw the rest away. If you need 2 different chemicals, use 2 different biomasses. And that can be up to over 99% wasteful, because bioactives in biomass generally tend to be low amounts. For example, we've probably all heard of lutein from marigolds. That's usually less than 2% of the biomass. and then the rest of it's just compost. So the sequence process, using the principles of green chemistry, basically we get all our chemicals from the same biomass, and we get all of them in one single process. So as you can imagine, that has good economics around it, good for the environment. We use less biomass than you would need to produce them separately, and we have a really low, most of our sustainability in our plant, the physical equipment and the things we do to recover heat and water, were quite honestly driven by poverty initially. We're a startup, we don't have a lot of money, so we had to be really efficient and really careful with our resources. So this allows us to produce 3 separate products right now, and we'll even be able to get more out of this seaweed as it goes on. So these are the 3 we produce right now, we can produce right now. In our small plant, we are only producing the top one. In our bigger plant, which is in Metagan, just down the road, drop in if you're ever in the neighborhood, we'll be producing the other 2. But the first plant's very small. It's in Cape Sable Island, Nova Scotia. So we're local all the way around, and our seaweed supply is actually located right in the middle of both plants in Pubnico. So all around, we're doing the best that we can to be sustainable and to try and get some profit. So our value prop is pretty simple. Try and do this in the best way we can for the planet, for the people, and keep us in business by making a high profit margin on what we do. So to get back to the environmental impacts that we have, and just give you a couple small examples. Energy efficiency, for example. We just invested in a big, giant freeze dryer. It is huge, but it runs on CO2, not traditional refrigeration gas, and that is a massive energy savings. It also has 100% heat recovery. So just by doing that one thing, we've made ourselves, it also works better than any other freeze dryer in the market, as in we can dry more product faster. So once again, the 2 principles go hand in hand of sustainability and profit. So as I already talked about the feedstock and the seaweed, bioplastics. So bioplastics is a pretty hot topic. We've actually been partnering up with a company from BC. They've truly made a bioplastic that composts in home compost in 7 days, and that you could just throw back into the ocean and it would be fine. It would actually be food for whoever wants it. So not only is our process sustainable, but the actual products that we're producing have a really good impact on environmental goals. So this process isn't unique to this seaweed and this thinking. It can be applied to other types of seaweed. Right now we use brown seaweed, local brown seaweed. We could use red seaweed, we could use green seaweed, we could use microalgae. So it's possible to apply this process to almost any biomass. The key feature here is the design. You have to design the process from the beginning to look at the whole biomass and decide which valuable compounds you want to take out of it, which order you're going to do it in, because that's another key feature. You have to leave the biomass that you're leaving behind intact so that you can continue to extract target compounds from it. But the other piece that I wasn't great at the beginning, and I got a little bit lucky to be honest, is that you have to consider the market that you're going to sell these products into. So not every single thing you're extracting from the biomass will all be at the very top end of the market, but some of it has to be to make this work. And so when I started this, my original business plan, which some people here would have seen, I said, knowing nothing about the nutraceutical industry whatsoever, I said that we were going to sell our Poly-C polyphenol extract for $800 a kilogram, which I now know to be an outrageous price in the nutraceutical industry. That's probably 5 times higher than most would sell for, but happy ending to this story. We actually have sold, not are going to sell, but have sold that exact extract for $2,000 a kilogram. And yeah. And the reason is because of the quality of the process, the green chemistry, which gave us a really high quality product that tested really well in human clinical trials, like off the charts well. So it's effective, and it's effective because of the gentle green process that we use. But the other piece is that we've been asked about our sustainability measures. People are going to audit us. Consumers do care about that now. They want to know what they're putting in their body works, where it came from, and how it was made. So all these things together have given us, after 4 years, our first sale at a really high value price for our first product. So I think it matters what you're doing, what everyone here is doing. Doing things in a sustainable, sensible way really makes a lot of sense, and I'm happy to be part of this. So thanks a lot.
All right, we did great for time, and we are going to leave a few moments for questions in the audience. So if anybody has any questions, see a hand over. We have a mic right there if you want to.
Hello, everyone. I'm Anamika from Ignite Atlantic. I love this topic, and I have 2 questions. Number 1, what are some of the challenges that you are currently facing for product valorization? My second question is how you access real-time data to track byproducts for valorization.
Any takers?
Challenge one maybe, and let's try it. A challenge that we're very intimate with, and I already spoke about, was the logistics challenge. So, great, there's all kinds of wonderful compounds that have applicability in human nutrition and coffee, but getting it at a justifiable cost is a whole other thing. And getting it of quality as well. A lot of these substrates we're dealing with are often waste products. They're treated as that. They're wet, they're warm, they're prone to spoilage, they're heavy, they're hard to truck around. So the economics are just really challenging, and I think that's something that we're seeing a lot more people focus on, is not just look at all the great things you can do with it, but let's be sensible about actually acquiring it and making sure it's cost competitive to whatever non-sustainable alternative you're marketing against. Second question?
Yeah, I can talk to challenges with our carbon source, like the glucose that we feed into our. Everyone wants a waste product to feed into your process, but our process is going into food, like infant formula, and we need to have like a really high standard for like the quality. We have a non-GMO certification and halal and kosher, and so we need food grade inputs. And sometimes we talk about glycerol from a biodiesel process. Like that's not going to come to us in a food grade or necessarily non-GMO source. So we'd love to find waste carbon sources, but the state of them isn't really amenable to meet all of our standards.
Just around product valorization, there's a lot of industries, and first of all, like this comment excludes our partner from Sustainable Blue, Dave Roberts. But when we went out to the broader, more conventionally minded aquaculture industry and aqua feed players, it was very consistent that they love the idea of something that could be a value add, but they were very clear, is like, we will not pay for it. So they wanted the transparency, they wanted the sustainability, they wanted the performance benefits, but they, from the get-go, we will not pay a premium on cost. And so that is something, there's always this mind shift that you need to break through, because those who really understand and kind of are more forward-looking realize that the cost of the conventional ingredients but are being used to feed these fish, those are going to be increasing. When you get to the point where you realize that the oceans are tapped out, there's no more fish, and we need solutions. So what are going to be the most, the best performing solutions out there, and realizing there's an investment phase where you need to pay that premium, that over time, as it scales, those costs tend to come back down. But at this point, that's kind of one of the biggest barriers that we find, is that shifting that mindset towards kind of a more future-oriented, look at going through an investment phase for the industry to adopt and trial and scale up these new solutions. So I think in time we'll bring down those barriers, but it's a huge block, for us at this stage.
I'll just quickly add on from our perspective, the challenge is finding the partners. From there, we turn it to opportunity. So, for example, previously in the hemp waste, this is something that the company has extracted, and they're hanging on to this waste. There's a cost to them to get rid of it. They don't know what to do with it. Sometimes they're just sitting on it. So the opportunity is being that company that will take that from them. What we do is we partner with companies that are environmentally conscious. So to them, the opportunity is obvious. We say, you have this process you're extracting here. We want to take what is left and make it into a product. So from that perspective, it's an opportunity for us versus a challenge.
My second question, just because I'm asking, because I just completed the research regarding that valorization, there are problems in accessing real-time data to track product so that we can do more valorization. So I just want to know, like, what are the methods that you are using to track those kind of data, or is there any, or is there like shortage, or what can we do for that?
I'll say quickly, one of the nice things about fermentation is you have the ability to track every aspect of the process from start to beginning. We use that data to kind of optimize the systems, and it's essential that you have access to real-time data. In some cases, that real-time data is helping you optimize. Sometimes it's actually helping you to prevent, a failed batch of product. So, taking bioprocess into the AI optimization, path is happening. We're kind of a little bit new to it. There's only so many hands, to do work within our company because we are a startup. But we definitely are trying to set up a data hygiene that allows us to be able to take advantage of real-time metrics and AI-based automation in the future.
Thank you so much.
All right. I won't keep you any longer. I know lunch is about ready there. So I just want to thank the panelists all again for contributing everything you did today. This is a tough challenges, but there's a good diversity of solutions and different angles being taken on it through everything everyone here is doing. And we're going to have an opportunity later today. The last session of the day will be a breakout session where we're going to touch on both this and what our following session this afternoon is going to be on, and we're going to discuss waste and do some brainstorming and problem solving. So there'll be opportunity for more discussion then on this topic and all the other topics discussed today. But for now, thank you everybody, and I believe you can start eating.